she had worked so hard. She came to this country. She worked hard. She worked on a sewing machine in a factory to help her three kids. All of us three kids, my dad. At some point, my dad wasn't around anymore. That's a whole other story. But somehow, all three of her kids, my brother, sister, and I, we all have advanced degrees coming from our Greek mom who has a third grade education. So I think all of us, there was something in there saying our mom has sacrificed for us, and we got to do something with that.
Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it. On this episode of Into the Unknown, I am joined with a very special guest, Peter Kofitsas. How are you doing today, Peter?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing well. I can't complain. It's just a great day. I kind of always I like the Tuesdays in the week. It's kind of you get over the Monday and you're kind of ready to go for the week.
Yeah, if you could make it past Monday, you're going to be okay the rest of the week, I think. I think you're right.
Couldn't agree more. I had to laugh because I kind of forgot what day it was for a split second. Because I think sometimes when you're enjoying what you do, it's you lose track of days sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good thing, right? That you're you're kind of into what you're doing. It's important. And you hopefully you're doing good work, and then all of a sudden, like, oh yeah, it's the weekend. That's kind of cool too.
It's not a bad thing, man. So I like to kick
Yeah,
off the show and talk about the importance of networking. How are we connected?
we are connected through ACE PR. ACE.
Yes, they do a great job. Olivia does an amazing job of connecting with guests. And I always tell people that's that extra level of networking when people vouch for you and you think they'd be a good fit. And so it's all exciting what and who Ace brings me.
Oh, absolutely. I believe in that. Just networking in general, having that warm lead, someone to say, hey, this is a good person or they're doing good work. It just helps immensely than having those cold calls, which, they could pan out, but it might be a couple hundred before you get a response to someone.
I couldn't agree more. So, I like to start the show off, talk about your comic book issue number one, your origin story. Who's Peter?
That's a great question. Right now, today, I'm a speaker, motivational leadership and wellness speaker. And I'm also a life coach and a health coach. And by degree, I have undergraduate degree in nutrition, and I have a master's of science, exercise science, and physical therapy. That's my professional who I am. I'm a father of three kids. My oldest is 24. My youngest is 17. I consider myself, I mean, that's my most important job. And what I do here with you and this conversation supports my role as a father. So I kind of blended the two. Like I don't think we need to separate what we do professionally with who we love personally. I just think that's a good way to sustain motivation.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's so important to not only, and we could probably get into this, but your why, but also making it's not separate all the time or ever. It's really, I think a lot of times we overcomplicate things because we think everything has to be separate or you have to be this way professionally or you have to be this way personally, and you can't blend the two.
Yeah, that comes with age too. I have to tell you, to be honest, when I was younger, I was much more self-conscious. I didn't want to say the wrong thing, and now, I'm 55, and um, I want to do this work. It's important what we're going to talk about, but I also want to be authentic, and I want to work with great people like yourself to have the best possible outcome instead of just trying to people please and do whatever it takes to get to the top, whatever that means. I'd rather have these authentic conversations and experiences.
Peter, I appreciate you say that. I think authenticity is so key and crucial in everything from business to your personal life to, as we mentioned, combining the two. I couldn't imagine, for me at least at this point, is trying to be someone I wasn't or having to make sure I had that mask on all the time. And I think it's just one of those things that the more and more I do it and the more I feel more authentic in who I am, the easier life has started to get.
Yeah, you're so right. It does get easier. I agree with you there because you're doing what you love. So whether you make $1 million or you don't close a deal that day, if you still are authentic and doing what you love, there's gratification in that alone.
So let's rewind a little bit. I want to know about how you kind of got started in the fitness space and how that ended up kind of creating the career you have now.
Yeah, that's a long story. I'm going to try to condense it for you. Basically, I grew up in a dysfunctional home and a lot of stuff happened, and I know a lot of us have experiences in childhood. It kind of shaped me. We didn't talk about a lot of the stuff that happened in my childhood. I was raised by two Greek immigrant parents, third grade education, did the best they could, came to the United States. But some stuff happened during childhood. Long story short, I ended up getting a scholarship in high school. I played 1 year of high school football and I got a scholarship. And when I got there, I was depressed. I was miserable. I gained 60 pounds my first year in college because I was a poor kid and they kept feeding us. They wanted us to bulk up. So I was like, okay, you're going to keep putting food in front of my face. I'm going to keep eating it. I gained 60 pounds. I was depressed. I ended up quitting my scholarship, even though I came from, a poor family. I was, like I said, depressed. I didn't know where I wanted to go in my life. I just wasn't happy. So I quit. I walked away, went to community college. My mom said, my little Greek mom, I'm 6'4". My mom is like 4'10". She's like, okay, Peter, in her Greek accent, you can quit your scholarship, but please just promise me you'll stay in school. So I took community college classes, worked my way back up, wanted to lose the weight. So I got the nutrition degree. I figured, hey, if I teach myself nutrition, I could lose the weight. And then I said, well, I'm interested in exercise and how the body works. So let me get my master's of science in physical therapy. And so I used those degrees and that knowledge for myself personally. And then I started coaching people, and then they would do great for a week, a month, and then they would stop eating healthy. They would stop exercising, and I'd scratch my head like, what's going on? I just showed them these really great strategies. That's when I started studying psychology. I hooked up with Tony Robbins, went to a lot of his seminars and weekend and week retreats, learned psychology, studied that for over 30 years, and then incorporated what we know about human success, professionally, with what we know about personal wellness and success and health success personally, and blending the two together. I was working as a physical therapist, and someone asked me, one of our patients said, could you come and do a lunch and learn on back pain? And I was scared to death, but I said, okay, I'll do it. Why not? And there was something in that moment, being in front of that audience, sharing knowledge that could help people, really just clicked. And I just practiced speaking. I would go, I don't even know if YouTube was around then, but somehow I found videos of great speakers and I just studied them. Like, what are they doing? What are their mannerisms? How are they pausing? What are they saying? And I studied them. And then I started just getting a little better and better and better. And next thing you know, I started a speaking business and working with corporations. And then I started working with school districts because teachers are working hard and support staff and they're getting burnt out. And then I coach people one on one for their health and also for their personal wellness, mental health, um, their professional capacity. They want to be leaders at work, maybe. And I've just, I practice what I preach. So when I'm with my clients or if I'm speaking in front of an audience, I'm kind of just saying, here's how I live my life, and it seems to be working. And these strategies aren't that difficult. We just got to focus on them and do them consistently. You know that one of the keys to success is just consistency, and that's how you and I got to be here, or my how I got to be here at least.
Peter, I appreciate that. I think it's so important, even though, as you mentioned, you pivoted away from football and you decided to continue your education. And I'm sure a lot of, having experienced in an immigrant family, sometimes, a lot of times education is the way out. So I'm sure it
Mhm.
was a difficult decision, even though I appreciate your mother, encouraging you to stay with it. But what made you personally stay with it?
I just felt like there was more in my life. I couldn't live my life unhappy, looking in the mirror, and really hated. I have to be honest, I hated the person I saw. It wasn't fair. I didn't understand what was really going on with me, but I would literally look in the mirror and say, God, I just look terrible. I feel terrible. I didn't want to live my life that way. And there was like this little silver lining, like I could have more. Like I could have a happier life. Maybe I could make some money. Maybe I could lose some weight. Maybe I could find a nice girl. I was 18 at the time, and I was like, I'm going to lose the weight, walk in the mall with a white t-shirt on, looking good, and maybe I'll attract a pretty girl. So it was the little things in life that motivated me, I think. I wanted better. I wanted more. I wanted to make my mom proud too, I think, in the back of my mind. If I think about it, I didn't want to disappoint her. She had worked so hard. She came to this country. She worked hard. She worked on a sewing machine in a factory to help her three kids. All of us three kids, my dad, at some point, my dad wasn't around anymore. That's a whole other story. But somehow, all three of her kids, my brother, sister, and I, we all had advanced degrees coming from our Greek mom who has a third grade education. So I think all of us, there was something in there saying our mom has sacrificed for us, and we got to do something with that. Maybe if I reflect on that, that could have had a big impact. I know my mother had a big impact on me, but that could have been one of the motivators.
Peter, I appreciate that. I think a lot of times you don't really know it in the time. You kind of just doing. I'm sure that you're doing the next best step. I don't think we. I think you realize as you get farther along in life, there isn't really quite a blueprint that ever completely works out the way you envision it. Instead, I think a lot of times it's doing those little wins to have that little bit of success each time to kind of, I think, show you you're on the right track.
You're so right about that because you could plan, and that's what I think one of the keys to success is to set a goal and then to pivot when you have to. Like, I'll be honest with you, when I was younger and I was a teenager, I was like, I want to be a rock star. I want to be on stage. I want to have, millions of adoring fans, but mostly girls. And then I got on stage, sort of like speaking, and I said, no, I want to help people be healthy and I want to help them have a better life, kind of the stuff that I did. So I pivoted. I'm not going to be a rock star. I don't know that I had any musical talent, but I could have a platform and a voice to say to people, hey, you got greatness in you. If you just did these couple of things, you could tap into that.
What drew you to speakers like Tony Robbins and other people like that?
That's a great question. I didn't have role models in my life, really. My father wasn't a role model. I can't say that my mom was because she was just putting food on the table. Looking back now, I could see that she was in a way. But I didn't have mentors. I didn't have a father figure around. I had some really good coaches. I had one of, my little league baseball coach was sort of a father figure to me. But I just gravitated towards people who were successful. And Tony Robbins, like I remember being up late at night. It was probably 2 a.m. and I was miserable. I was like, what am I going to do with my life? And Tony Robbins came on like every night at that time with his infomercial. Like, it was an 11-day program back then or something. I had never bought anything off of, order TV ordering, whatever. Something about what he was saying is like, I don't know what it was. It's like, here's the blueprint for success. And it just made sense. He goes, step one, set a goal. Step two, believe in your goal. Step three, align with other mentors. And he just taught me the stuff that my parents didn't have the capacity to teach me. And it was him and other inspiring people, a lot of authors. I read a tremendous amount of biographies, not so much autobiographies, because I don't know that they're the most honest. Like, are we really going to reveal some of the stuff about ourselves that is not so pretty? I read a ton of biographies about successful people, and I just saw commonalities, and one of them was never give up. No matter if every single person in your life says you can't do this, if you really believe in your gut that there's something there, don't give up, just persevere. And then, like you said, you have a blueprint, but then you just kind of shift when you have to.
Peter, I appreciate you said that. I think it's so important to not really give up on your dream and your goal, even though it might not look exactly the way you see it. I think sometimes, and I think it's also not to be delusional either. maybe you said you wanted to be a rock star, but if you don't have any musical talent, that might not work, you know?
Exactly. Right. I think there's a little like it's not delusional, but there's like look for you to have the success, to have this podcast, and for me to have success in my life, there has to be uh, some suspension of belief because a lot of people are like, I can't do that, I can't do that. But at some point, you're like, I want to do that, I want to do that. So sometimes it's not delusion, but it's suspending beliefs and saying, let me just try it, man. Let me step out of my comfort zone, do something that I've been thinking about for a long time. Ask for help, find mentors who are doing something similar, see how they did it, and then the formula for success is repeatable, which I like.
Exactly, Peter. And you mentioned find people that can help or find people that can guide you in the right direction. I got my undergrad in history and my master's in public history. And I've been fortunate I was the historian and curator at the College Football Hall of Fame. I also worked at the Pro
Really?
Football Hall of Fame. And that was just through me reaching out to people, my professors reaching out to people, tell me get a first an internship at the Pro Hall. And then, you stay in that work, you meet those people, you do good by them without really the expectation of anything in return. A few years later, they reach out to you, and it's one of those things where I always do my best to kind of give without expectation, but finding that
Mhm.
value or finding ways to value, help others, I think is important.
Yeah, right. Sometimes you do it without asking for more money, or you're not getting paid for it, but you're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And I don't believe in altruism too, by the way. I think that anytime you do good for others, there's good that comes back to you. And that could be that could be the motivation that you need, man. Oh, that felt good helping those people, going above and beyond. I want to keep doing that. And then if you could support yourself doing it, that's a bonus.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of that is being practical too. The worst thing about a starving artist is they're starving. So if you can find a way to, incorporate some income into kind of those goals and dreams and passions, I think it's important, or at least find something that can help support that.
Yeah, 100%. Surround yourself. I was just telling my son today, he's 17 years old, and I said, he asked one of his teachers for help with a project. I said, good for you, man. Like, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of you're never going to give up. Like, it's a sign of strength, actually, and courage to say, hey, can you help me with this? Because there's people that are doing or have done maybe what you want to do. Maybe it's not exact, but they're willing to help. They're willing to say, "Hey, man, I messed up. I struggle. I went down this path, but here's what I learned from it." And then you don't have to. You'll make your own mistakes, but you don't have to go down that path, and you'll just go down another path.
Couldn't agree more. So, Peter, on everyone's journey, you can go east, you can go west, you make a decision not really knowing the outcome. Can you give me a time in your life where you did that and just went for it?
Well, recently, yeah, I was um, about 5 years ago. I was working. I was a partner in a multidisciplinary clinic, physical therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture, massage. The business was doing amazing. The world changed. That business overnight went away. And I had a choice at that point. Do I rebuild this business, or do I follow my true passion, which is speaking to companies and school districts and coaching people? And I I had an epiphany moment, and I said, look, what happened the last 4 or 5 years depends on how you look at it. My therapist Frank always said life is really the perception that you have about what happens to you and then what you do with that. So I said, with his help and guidance and other people and support, I really want to do the speaking business, and I gave the other business a shot, and I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to go down that path anymore. And I have to say, it's been a struggle. I lost 90% of my income, but I was determined. I was not going to give up. I really believed, did some spiritual connection, connecting to a higher power. And I said, what is my path? What kept coming back for me was, you're supposed to share the journey that you had, your childhood challenges, how you got healthy, how you incorporated that with building a successful business to support yourself and your children. And I that was a turning point. As big as quitting my scholarship, this was a similar turning point or a moment of growth, but it was scary as hell. Look, I have grown children. I support them along with their mother. She and I have a wonderful relationship. I had a responsibility, so I made sure I could cover those bills and provide my children with the bare necessities. Aside from that, I moved to a one bedroom apartment. I drive a very basic car. I gave up any luxuries that I had. I had a high end gym membership. I quit that. I work out in my apartment now, which I'm totally fine with. And I just said, I don't need any of that stuff. Here's what I want to do, and I'll do whatever it takes. And I've had support from key people in my life. My brother is one of them, my sister too. And that I just this was my path. And I, I keep hearing, like, when I was reading those biographies or autobiographies, people would be broke, 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 and then they're millionaires. Like, what happened in between? Like, you didn't tell me. Like, how did you just go from nothing to you're a multimillionaire? So I really want to tell people it's not, it's not overnight for most of us. It's 5 years, it's 10 years, it's 15 years of committing and not giving up and believing in yourself, surrounding yourself with people that are going to say, hey, I'm here for you. What do you need? And then eventually, hopefully, you get what you're supposed to be doing, and hopefully you could support yourself. I just feel like that's important too. Like, being able to support yourself to the lifestyle that you want, that's important for you. And if you have children, if you have extended family, not giving up on that, even in those times of complete darkness where you don't see a future. And there are people saying to you, what the hell are you doing? You're ruining your credit score. You're behind on your bills. Like, that's not for everyone. But if you have a dream that you believe in, that might be some of the stuff you go through. And just know you are not alone doing that. You just might not read about it because people sometimes are embarrassed or ashamed to say they were bankrupt. I was bankrupt. I almost had my house foreclosed. Sometimes people are ashamed to reveal that stuff, but that's the reality of a lot of us. How we became successful is we went through that, and I think that's an important part of the story to tell, to help others who are going through it.
Peter, I couldn't agree more. I think it's so much, again, as we talked about earlier, being authentic and sharing that story. And of course, it's not pretty, it's not ugly. We see highlights a lot of times on social media, and that's it. It's the highlights. It's not the times where I'm sitting in my room, or I just moved home after a pandemic or middle of pandemic. I've got furloughed, this, that, and the other, and or
Yep.
quit your dream job once you wake up and realize that you're ready to move on. I think so much of it is being able to be vulnerable and authentic and sharing that story.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's tough to do because you might get judged for it. So I commend anyone that does that.
Peter, so title of the podcast, Into the Unknown. What are you working on right now?
I am working on reaching more school districts. I have been fortunate that my message is resonating with superintendents, principals, teachers, support staff on how to support them, prevent burnout, and help them be their best self. And I'm rebuilding my corporate business too, speaking to companies that care about their employees, that want them to succeed. Obviously, the bottom line is important, but also to personally benefit and to grow together as a company. That's what my future is.
Peter, if people want to learn more about you and your company, where can they find you online, find you on social media?
My website, Peter Kofitsas. It's a tough one to spell. Kofitsas.com. And I'm all over social media. I post almost every single day, and I post a lot of food reels because I love to cook. My brother and I love to cook. We don't always cook healthy, I'll be honest. Sometimes it's an indulgence, but that's fine too. You don't have to be perfect. But I love to put out social media that has value. Every time I post something, I want someone to walk away with a cooking tip, an exercise tip, a motivational tip, a stress tip, something to say, hey, that's easy. I can implement that immediately in my life or the life of my children. So my website and then my social media. On my website, you'll find my social media.
And we'll make sure to link all that in the show notes as well. Well, Peter, I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
We'll talk soon. That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.